We want to talk a little bit about horses tonight. I didn't give my computer guy much time, but there we go. Got a team of 6 here. And so I want to talk a little bit about teams or team. I don't know a lot about horses. We used to have ponies and things, and so when I was a kid, I've become more of a mechanical person. Sorry, Johnny. But horses, they're pretty powerful, and actually we still use the term horsepower today. When we talk about cars, we talk about engines, talk about tractors, how many horsepower on the PTO. Horsepower has been around for centuries, and so anyhow, it's been very important to man and the advancement of mankind. And so today they're not nearly as essential for farming as they used to be. But you could do a lot more with horses than you could manually. And if I have a question here, if one horse can pull 800 pounds and another horse pulls 600 pounds, so we got a team here, how many pounds can they pull? Okay. Actually, 800 and 600 add up to what? 1,400. Okay, and a good team can actually pull almost, not quite double, but 2,300 pounds is what the figures I found. And so that's teams. That's pulling together. So the one team is greater than the 2 individual horses. Okay, and so that's kind of neat. It's 1 and 1 is not equal to 2 when it comes to a team, is it? 1 and 1 is not quite equal to 4 in a team. And so teams are pretty important. We want to look at the Bible a little bit here. The Bible doesn't say so much as, it doesn't call the churches teams per se, but it does use one of the old versions used one accord, or today we would say together. And actually, the old joke, right? One accord does not mean the early church traveled in a Honda, right? They were, a few people got that, Honda Accord, okay? But they were together. And actually in Acts, there's like 7 places. I'm only gonna pick out a couple of them. Acts chapter 1, they were together, they were a team, they were united. They were together in heart and mind. Acts 1, I'm going to go through a couple of these quickly just for time. Verse 14, they all joined together constantly in prayer, along with the women and Mary, the mother of Jesus, and his brothers. So they all joined together. Now, the old King James has one accord there, but we're going to be using the word together, pretty much. Chapter 2 says, verse 1, when the day of Pentecost came, they were all together in one place. Suddenly a sound like the blowing of a violent wind came from heaven and filled the whole house where they were sitting. Okay, and so that's pretty much just being near each other. Now, being near each other, does that make you a team? Does that make you united? if I took two cats and tied their tails together and threw them over a clothesline, would they be together? The fur would fly, wouldn't it? They're together, but that doesn't mean they're working together. They're not a team, okay? And so I'm not recommending you do that, but so just being near somebody is not enough. And so when we use the word together here, it's not just being in the same vicinity. It's like the next verse I want to look at is in chapter 2:44. It says, all the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes, ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. So there was a lot of togetherness there, wasn't there? There was a lot of, especially when somebody's willing to sell something and give to somebody. That's a team, isn't it? That's being united. And so that's the early church. That's the example the Bible gives us. And eating together, breaking bread, and then finally it even says God or the Lord added to their number. So their number was already together, weren't they? And so it's just one more way of saying that they were they were a team, they were like-minded, they were together in heart and mind. Okay, and so usually when we think of a team, I don't care if it's a team of horses, you have something in mind. You have a specific course or a specific objective you want to accomplish. Maybe you have a team at work. You've been tasked to do certain things. Okay, so there's a goal. There's a something you have in common that you're headed for, and so that united or the unity there in hearts and minds. Somebody really looking out for someone else. And that's the example that God gives us from the early church. And so, we all can see the good there. What prevents or what holds back from being together? What causes problems? I have a couple of verses we'll look up here. One, let's look at Proverbs 13, verse 10. Proverbs 13, verse 10. It says, pride only breeds quarrels, but wisdom is found in those who take advice. Okay, so that kind of leads me to believe, there's people that don't take advice. Are they proud? Many times. I'm not going to make a blanket statement, but pride causes problems. We don't want somebody getting ahead of us. We don't want, like somebody's trying to cut us off. We got to speed up, right? That's a little bit of pride there, isn't it? And so that usually just escalates given enough time. And so pride, there's here it says it breeds quarrels. So if there's somebody that has pride, there's going to be problems. And you can look all through the Bible, down through the Old Testament, New Testament, and Proverbs is exactly right. Okay, but obviously we want to go to the other side of the coin there. but wisdom is found in those who take advice. Okay, and so pride is one thing that prevents unity. And so I need to look at myself. If I'm not wanting to be like-minded, I'm not wanting to pull in the same direction, am I being proud? I need to ask myself that. Okay? Okay, another thing, it might be selfishness. And a lot of that, it's pretty hard to slice that away from pride. They go together. Maybe could even be just a lack of love. And I'd like to look at another verse, Colossians chapter 2. I've been doing quite a bit of the talking here. If anybody has comments there. This is a class, so I actually prefer a class over preaching. But Colossians chapter 3. I want to start with verse 12. It says, "Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other, forgive whatever grievances you may have against one another, forgive as the Lord forgave you. And over all these virtues put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity." Okay, so here he's talking about tissue. Okay, if you're God's chosen people, you feel like you're a Christian. Okay, you are God's chosen people. And so he's addressing us. It says, holy and dearly loved. So then he has some instructions here. Clothe yourself. Okay? The Bible tells us to put on different things. Maybe it's armor. Maybe it's, in this case, the illustration is clothes. Clothe yourself. But here's the kind of clothes. It doesn't have to be LL Bean or Land's End or whatever particular, thank you, brand you like. But anyhow, it says, it gives us a list here with compassion. Okay, and so compassion, that's quite the opposite of lack of love here. You're showing love. You have compassion, and so not only just put it on, but put it into practice is what it's saying, right? It's not just. I heard of a lady that used to put on her armor every morning. She'd put on the helmet and she'd get her shield. She would actually go through those motions. But this is actually doing, is what he's saying here. Clothe yourself. Do this. Here's what you're to do. So we need compassion. That's looking out for other people. That's loving other people. Okay? And then he goes on, kindness. Showing kindness. Not being rude, not being impolite. Once again, doing nice things for someone. Everyone likes kind deeds done to them. And then he goes on, humility. And so we need to be humble. We have some other verses that actually touch on some of these things here. If you're humble, the pride hopefully is not a factor there. That's the opposite. Humility and pride are like the two ends of the spectrum here. And so that's what God wants. You know, humility, considering other people better than you. It doesn't always have to be a competition. I don't always have to get my way. No, you take the biggest piece of pie. Anyhow, those kind of things. And there's 100 other ways you could do that. But humility, and then he goes on to gentleness. Nobody likes to be rough-handled, do they? If you get called into the boss's office, you made a mistake, whatever, you know, you hope he's gentle. I tell my kids, or I used to tell them, I hope everybody works for a bad boss at some point in their life. And I'll tell you all, especially you younger people, I hope you all get a bad boss. Hopefully you don't have to work for him long, but you will learn a lot from a bad boss, how not to be. And you'll know how bad you felt when you were treated roughly. And so gentle here, gentleness, sometimes, yeah, there has to be things handed out. Okay, we got to correct this problem, but hopefully we can do it gently. And patience. Patience isn't something I feel like I have a lot of extra. And so that's something that God keeps working on. I was telling Nancy the other day, it seems like there is no small job anymore. I want to change a light, tail light, in Nancy's car. It should be 3-4 minutes, right, Johnny? Well, ended up broke. I had the screws out, and it broke about 6 inches right where the thing attaches. So at least I had a plastic welder. It took me half an hour to weld the plastic all back together, and I feel it's good and strong, but my wife wanted me to do something, and I said, I'm just going to do this. It'll only take me a minute, and I'll be in there to do that. And then when I got in to do her job, it's just a matter of bolting this thing together. And no, there's no small jobs. We had to drill all new holes. There are no small jobs. It seems like there's no quick jobs. So anyhow, patience. And so those things that don't go your way, that's how you get patience. Anyhow, I don't know why God has to work so hard on that one, but anyhow, so these are the kind of things. If you have compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, you're not going to be a hard person to get along with. You're going to be a good part of the team, right? Then he goes on, let me back up. Verse 14, and over all grievance, back up, 13, bear with each other and forgive one another. Now, bear doesn't mean be a bear. It means forbear. It means put up with. It means you be the mature one. And that's one thing in our small groups, the honor and respect. The one that settles the argument is the mature one, right? The mature one is the first one to take a step to say, oh, I messed up. Okay? And so if you're the mature one, I would encourage you to do that. Okay? Back up. Bear with each other, forgive one another. If any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you. Wow, that's quite an example there. God has forgiven us just astronomically, hasn't he? And so we need to forgive as well. And then finally, over all these virtues, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. So love is the glue there. Love is what keeps it all together. And so that's Paul talking there. He's telling us how to do this. Okay, looks like my time is sliding away pretty fast here. Let's jump down to, let me skip through some here. Well, what I can do, I have some of these written out. I'll just read John 17:20 through 21. John 17, Jesus is praying here for his disciples, but he gives us an example. It says, "My prayer is not for them alone. I pray also for those who will believe in me through their message, that all of them may be one, Father, just as you are in me and I am in you. May they also be in us, so that the world may believe that you have sent me." Okay, all of them may be one. That's his prayer. And then the example of Jesus and God being one. And the result is that the world may believe that you have sent me. Okay, and so people will be changed, lives will be changed, and people will sit up and take notice. And they will want what you have. They sometimes don't know what it is, but they'll say, I want what you have. And that's your opportunity. You need to, you get the door cracked open a little bit, you need to get in there and tell them about Jesus. Okay, let me just, let's turn to Philippians chapter 2. We want to start with the first 5 verses there. It says, "If you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, if any comfort from his love, if any fellowship with the Spirit, if any tenderness and compassion, then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit, purpose. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility consider others better than yourselves. Each of you should look not only to your own interest, but also to the interest of others." Your attitude should be the same as that of Christ Jesus. And it goes on with a lot of good things there. Okay, and so he's saying there, verse 2, "Then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love." What love was that? That's back up the love or the comfort from his love of Jesus in verse 1 there. So make my joy complete by being like-minded, being together, being part of that team, pulling in the same direction. Okay. It says being one in spirit and one in mind. And you know, you can look at any kind of a team, whether it's a soccer team, like the women's soccer team that just won. You know what? If you compete as an individual there, you're going to get beat all the time. There is no possible way you can individually beat. A team doesn't even work as a team when you do that, and you're gonna be wiped out quick. And so, anyhow, here are the being one in spirit and one of one mind. And then he's got some warnings for us. And if these weren't pertinent, I don't think he would have bothered putting them in there. It says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit." And so that's our human nature. We like to do things. Sometimes we like to be noticed. We like the attention. we like being first, whatever the case is there, selfish ambition or vain conceit. And so let me just finish with the verse. It says, rather in humility, value others above yourselves. And then verse 4, not looking to your own interest, but each of you to the interest of the others. And, buying and selling, a lot of times people aren't looking out for anybody else's interests but their own, are they? The best deals, it's when it's a win-win for both people. If somebody's making out like a bandit and the other guy is really got the short end of the stick, that's not going to foster good feelings, is it? And so we need to be careful there. Look out for other people's interests. Just a couple of quick points there. So Paul's telling them in verse 2 to be like-minded. We've been talking a lot about that. That doesn't mean just carbon copies. That doesn't mean everybody's got to think the same thing. That's not the way a good team works. Different people have different strengths that they bring to the team, and a good team will utilize their strengths. And so everybody's different. God made us all different. And so we're not going to have the same ideas, the same concepts. And so it means we need to be agreeable even when we disagree. Okay? I haven't always learned that in marriage even to be that way. You don't have to say amen there. She didn't. I'm just picking on her. But anyhow, and so we need to learn how to get along even when we disagree. And so I think that's important. It's not that I've won and you've lost. Okay, he's also talking about motives here. Do nothing out of selfish ambition. Those are wrong motives, aren't they? And there's a lot of people motivated by wrong motives. And so we need to recognize that. We need, especially when it's me, I need to recognize myself. And the other thing about the Bible, it's really your relationship with God. You're not supposed to worry so much about other people as you're supposed to worry more about yourself. Am I doing what's right? That's the only person you can really change anyhow. And so you need to work things out with God. You need to line up with God. Okay, so he talked about being humble, lift others up. That reminds me of Jesus. We won't look at it. John chapter 13, Jesus washed the disciples' feet. That still kind of amazes me. Here's the creator of the universe washing these really filthy feet. They probably had horse and donkey dung and everything else ground up on the roads. They needed their feet washed. And Jesus, he was their Lord and Master, and he did it. Washed people's dirty feet. And so that's the example we're given. We need to be servants. And I'm trying to hurry here. I just have one more verse I want to look at. Matthew chapter 18. This kind of impressed me that God really likes us united. He likes us together. Matthew 18, verse 19. And once again, I'm kind of breaking in on the thought here, but just for time's sake, you can read the whole context there. It's talking about someone that sins and how to bring them back. You go and talk to them. And anyhow, verse 19. Again, I tell you that if two of you on earth agree about anything you ask for, it will be done for you by my Father in heaven. For where two or three come together in my name, there I am with them. Okay, and so in order for God to kind of show up, we got to be together. And that doesn't mean just in the same, like location like the cats were, right? On the hanging over the clothesline. We got to be together in mind. We got to be, it says where two or three come together in my name, there I am with them. And so unity in God's mind is really pretty important. And he doesn't show up till we are united. And and even it says, the first part of that verse, if two of you on earth agree about anything you ask for, it will be done for you by my Father in heaven. Okay, so it's talking about people praying to God, but they're praying together. Why does God make that distinction there? Why does he want two people to agree before he does it? I'm not saying he always does that, but that's what that verse leads me to believe. And so it's important. God really has high priority for being united, pulling together, pulling in the same direction, not thinking I'm better than somebody else, loving each other, and that's what God wants. Does anybody have any quick comments before we close? Phil? Oh, Antonio? Okay, so kind of reminds me of dating where people hide the ugly side. But as that Will Rogers used to say, before you get married, you keep both eyes open, and after you get married, you close one of them. I used to joke, you close the one that's not black and blue. But Caleb? Sure. Okay, well, very good. Yeah, you can just imagine a team of horses dysfunctional. We watched them at the state fair last year, these teams of, most of them I think were six, aren't they? 6 horses. Some of them were very well trained. Other ones, the guy, you could tell all he could do to get him to do what he wanted. They really weren't functioning well together. Okay, any other, Phil?
A couple quick things. The Bible talks about being unequally yoked, with unbelievers, because you can't be a team really in everything you're doing. So just that. But if you read about draft horses, one can pull 8,000 pounds, two can pull 24,000 pounds, and then if they're trained, they can pull like 32,000 pounds. And I think
Okay? Okay, good. Okay, anything else? Okay, let's close with a prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we're thankful for these things that we could read about, being together, being teams. We just pray that you would help us in the doing. It's easy to hear, but help us to have that on our hearts and our minds to do what you want. And so just give us wisdom as we're with each other. Help us to love each other. And we just thank you for loving us. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.